In the body, protein is undergoing a continual process of breakdown and resynthesis. In fact, it takes human beings around 80 days, less than 3 months, to replace protein. And since the body can only manufacture half the amino acids it needs, a diet containing the right proteins in the right amounts is essential to health. In a world of so many riches, why do millions of children go to bed hungry? Famine, drought, poverty, political strife. The reasons are complex. But this much is clear. Protein deficiency is the most common form of malnutrition in the world. A condition known as protein energy malnutrition afflicts more than 500 million children. Countless children die from it each year. Lisa Hopkins was a Peace Corps volunteer in the Republic of Guinea, a lush, mountainous country in West Africa. As a public health educator, she saw malnourished children every day in the health center where she worked. Sometimes those children were getting enough calories, but all too often their diets were protein deficient.
The staple was rice and sauce, some type of sauce, usually a leaf sauce or a peanut sauce or a soup sauce, which is basically water and oil and some sort of vegetable, sometimes okra and onions. Mostly rice, a lot of rice. The nutrients that would be lacking in this type of diet, which is basically starch-based, would be protein, meat, a direct source of protein like meat. I saw a lot of kwashiorkor in the health center.
Kwashiorkor is a condition in which the person is not or does not have an adequate protein intake.
Typically, it affects children age 1 to 3.
They would have edema, bloated limbs, very thin upper arms, lethargy, probably anemic, very dark circles underneath their eyes. Basically, you would try and convince the people that, no, they're not getting enough food. I also saw a lot of marasmus in general, which is a state where children are hungry most of the time because they're not getting the right kinds of nutrients in their diet.
Marasma is a total calorie, protein, vitamins, minerals deficiency. It's a form of starvation.
As a result of these deficiencies, growth and weight gain are hampered. The digestive system breaks down, and the immune system is impaired, increasing a child's susceptibility to infection.
You get sick with diarrhea, and you go through an extreme bout of that, and then you finally come out of it through rehydration and careful nutrients, only to have your immune system weakened. It's still weak from having that bout of diarrhea. And bad hygiene practices or ineffective hygiene practices would come, and they'd get sick again, and the protein wouldn't be there to help fortify their immune system, and it would go in a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. I saw children die of diarrhea because of malnutrition, and protein energy malnutrition, to be specific, really affected me deeply.
As a public health educator, Lisa helped change that.
We tried to show people what the cause was and help them feel empowered, because when you feel helpless in a situation, you can't do anything to change it.
It may surprise some people to learn that malnutrition isn't limited to third world countries.
We certainly can see in the inner city child, maybe not because of malicious neglect, but certainly because of neglect, we can see these children coming into the emergency room with, if it's a situation of marasma, it is that starved, skeleton-looking child that perhaps has had a diet of soft drinks, potato chips, or other types of convenience food.
The truth is, hunger knows no bounds, and causes of PEM have been reported in poor inner cities and rural areas of the United States, affecting adults as well as children.
In this country, and for the student of nutrition, the concern of kwashiorkor and marasma is probably more with our patients that have cancer, with our patients with AIDS, with the home health patient that may be bed bound, but is having meals brought into the home, And even the hospital patient is at risk for kwashiorkor especially. By and large, the hospital diet, the long-term care institution diet, is not as high in protein as the typical American diet.
Across the U.S., private and public efforts, like federally funded school breakfast and lunch programs, give many children a nutritional head start by providing essential proteins for growth and development.
All American children can avail themselves of a nutritious lunch in the schools that participate. And currently we have approximately 92,000 public and private nonprofit schools participating in the program.
In 1946, President Harry Truman established a federal school lunch program to safeguard the health and well-being of America's children, many of whom were suffering from protein-energy malnutrition. Today, the situation has improved enormously, and the program still exists.
The nutrition standard for the school lunch program requires that 1/3 of the recommended dietary allowance for children's protein be met in the school lunch program.
One of the schools that participates in the program is King George Elementary in Virginia.
If you look at the current levels of requirements for the school lunch program and what we serve to the students, 50% of the recommended allowance of protein is served within just the lunch alone.
That is met primarily by two of the components in the school lunch program, which is meat or alternate and the milk requirement. A meal such as chicken stir-fry with rice, a vegetable medley is typically served with that, a whole grain roll, and milk. Dessert would often be something like an orange and pineapple fruit cup. That's a meal that appeals to children, so they want to eat it. It has taste appeal, yet it's also nutritious.
Probably the biggest benefit that they receive is the variety of foods which we serve. The children are being exposed to a much larger variety than they might otherwise be. And really the hallmark of good nutrition for children is to encourage them to eat a wide variety of foods rather than a lot of one single food.
I think the fact that we're seeing much less evidence of protein, energy, malnutrition is attributed to the success of the federal nutrition programs, including the National School Lunch Program.